Hey, what's going on, guys? We're back with the next part of our tutorial series, and we're going to be improving on our camera script today because I think it's going to be a really quick, really easy um, video. So let's go ahead and find our, where is it? Oh, there you go, player camera. It's in the player folder. And as you can see, we left it off as a very simple script where it's just updating its position. We're going to The plan for this video is to get it similar to, if you ever played Mario, there's like a threshold for the amount of distance. The camera will not move if you move within like the center of the screen, but as soon as you get a certain distance to the right or left, the camera will start to follow the player. So we'll start off with that, and then if we have time, then we'll also do the same for jumping as well. So we'll make a new public float x threshold, and we'll call it, or we'll default it to, I don't know, 3. Okay. Well, let's do the same for our Y threshold as well, even though I'm not sure if we're gonna get to it. We'll default this one to 2. Next, it's gonna be brackets because it's gonna take more than one line to do this. So, first check we're gonna do is the x difference. We'll do if the difference between, we'll do math f dot absolute value between our transform dot position dot x minus the players dot transform dot position dot x is greater than our x threshold. We'll do greater than or equal to, actually. Shouldn't make much of a difference, but just because. Then we're going to update x value. Okay? And then down here we'll do if. Actually, it'll be easier if I just copy this here. And instead we're going to change these y's to, or these x's to y's. So this is the up and down axis now. And then change this to our y threshold. And we're going to go ahead and update the y value. So, excuse me. So what this does is check the difference between our x position and the player's x position, and if the difference is greater than our threshold, then we have to update our x value. So, what we're going to do is above these two things here, we're going to make two new variables at runtime. We'll call it float x equals 0 and float y equals 0. Oops, not minus 0, equals 0. And then down here, when we update our position, we're going to change this to x and y. And then z is never going to change because we don't want to move in and out unless you know, you want to have a zooming feature, which I don't think we need to cover right now. Maybe in the future, but well, even so, it would be kind of, it wouldn't be it's supposed to be a simplistic game, so we're trying to keep things simple. The easiest way to do this would be to store this data, and we're going to start to talk about a little bit about code efficiency. So if you want to, we can go ahead and make a new float, and we'll call it difference, and set it to that. However, you'll notice this is the same exact code that we're calling in our check, and instead of wasting more resources to wait for these functions to return and do this calculation again, the best way I think is to go ahead and store it in a variable up here, and then just use the variable here. This way we don't have to do this check again, it'll just automatically reference that same number. And obviously you think, okay, that's not really a whole lot of efficiency, but when you use methods like this over and over again through your scripts, it is a huge difference. I mean, you probably won't notice it, but it is really a huge difference if you've done that in all your scripts. And we haven't been, it's not like we've been really resource hogging in this project. It's been rather low resource heavy, but still, I mean, we've kept this stuff pretty efficient as we can. I usually try and keep it a good practice to be efficient, unless I'm trying to make things simple. But for now, I'm trying to at least give you guys the idea of what it's like to have efficient code. Okay, so we'll do x equals transform.position.x plus the difference. And we're gonna have to do a check here too. Is we'll do if the if our x value is greater than or less than rather the player's transform.position.x, then we're going to, so if we are to the left of the player, if the player is moving to the right, then we're going to add to our x, and then else we're going to have to do minus the difference. Because remember, when we're calculating the difference, we're using the absolute value, so it's always going to be positive, although we don't want to always be moving to the right. Sometimes we want to be moving to the left. So that's why we have to do this check here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing here. Obviously, since we've already initialized this variable as a float, we don't need to initialize it again. We can just call it difference. We'll do difference equals this. And then let's go ahead and just copy this. And then we'll have to do y. Okay. So quick rundown. Every frame it'll check to see if the player is still alive, and if it is alive, it'll create two new x and y variables, default them to 0. Then it'll get the difference between our left and right position. If the difference is greater than our threshold, then we want to update the position to match that of the players, or not match that of the players, but move towards the player. I have a better idea actually. Instead of doing transform.position to x, we'll do player.transform.position .x, and then this will be minus. We'll change this guy to a plus, and then we'll do player here as well. And then obviously we have to do the same to these guys. Flip the signs. Okay, so then we're going to be updating the x and y positions. And these checks are independent of each other. So even if we're not moving left and right, if we're jumping and we change the threshold, it'll still do that check whether this check returns true or not. And then if not, then the x value will be... that actually brings up another good point. We can't default this to 0. We have to default it to our transform.position.x. Or if this position fails, if the player isn't moving, it'll default its x and y position to 0, and we don't want that. So there, if these checks fail, it will default to what position we were at the last frame. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a go. Oh, no, in our main camera. And let's keep the threshold the same. So now if you move left and right, our player does not, or our camera does not move. Oops, whoops. However, if we move to the left, nothing happens. Let's change this threshold to 0.5. Nothing still. Okay. Well, here's where we're going to put in some debug here. But first, let me just see if let me check the Y motion here, so if we can get that working. No, same. Okay, so let's go ahead and find out what's going on here. Okay, so basically what happened was it only took me like one thing in debug to figure it out, and I was pretty stupid. Basically, I just messed up with my logic in my head for some reason. I used difference, and instead of difference, we want to change this to our x threshold here. And obviously the same for our y threshold, here and here. And let me restart the video real quick. Alright. And so what was going on before was that because the difference is always updating, the difference is just the difference between where we are right now, and that'll return the same position that we're at no matter what. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So as you can see, okay, this guy needs to die. As you can see, I can move to the left and right on the screen. Actually, the threshold's kind of low. Let me change that real quickly. We'll change it to 3. As you can see, we can move around and the camera will not follow us. However, once we get 3 units away, the camera will start to follow us. And once again, we can move to the right, and until we get that far away, the camera won't follow us. Now, I like it how it is right now, where with the jumping, the camera won't follow us. However, if we jump, let's say, you know, we hit some sort of power up that makes us get super jump or something, and we get to, say, 7. That's what the camera will do. Okay. And then obviously we want to default it to the player's Y value. So what we're going to do is real quickly, just a really quick check. If the difference, if the player is out of range, then we're going to update it to that position. Else, let us default us our Y to player.transform.position.y. In fact, a better way of doing that would be taking this here and just replacing that up there. Let's hit save, go in here. So now we can jump. It'll follow us, and then let's say, you know, we can jump super high. It'll still follow us. Okay. To be quite honest, I'm not overly happy with that. I'm gonna go back to what it was before. And what we'll do is after the jump, we'll do a reset Y position. So the best way to do this is to go into our platformer motion script. Actually, you know, I'm gonna leave it for the next video because this one's getting kind of long.